Hey friends, today is day 43 of Russian war against Ukraine. I have a few important updates for you on what's happening in the field, what's happening on the diplomatic front, and what's happening inside of Russia. Of course, the biggest news that we've gotten and that had set a new timeline for this war and for international reaction, what's happening was Bucha, was what we learned over the weekend. So what was happening is Russian forces, understanding that they cannot take Kyiv or Kyiv Oblast, have retreated because they don't want to suffer more losses. And they, as they were retreating, and Ukrainian army was pushing into those cities, into suburbs, they saw a horrible picture. So far, we've seen in more or less detail what was happening in Bucha, and what we saw was truly horrifying. Right now, the count of civilians who have been tortured and killed by Russian troops is 410. And as you've read from many sources, that what's happening there is horrifying because the level of inhumanity is off the charts. Kids as young as 10 years old were raped. Women, same thing. A lot of them were shot in the back with their hands tied behind their back. And the whole world is asking with us the same question: what kind of people do this? What kind of army do this? What kind of ideological brainwashing you have to be under in order to do these things? This is horrifying, and pictures from Bucha have shocked the entire world, and a lot of politicians, high-ranking politicians, have already expressed their opinion about it, and it had also spurred them to action. So right now, we're seeing that the previous prosecutor for the Hague tribunal has her name is von der Leyen, I forget, but she has said that she wants to have an international manhunt for Putin, or the order of his arrest to be issued. This has also spurred reaction from Boris Johnson and French president as well. William Taylor, who was the former ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, had said that the United States is ready to give us all kinds of weaponry, but nuclear weapons. And as you know from my previous videos, that what Ukraine needs right now is the assault weaponry, the heavy weaponry that will allow us to push Russians back. We have been able to stop them with the light weaponry that we have gotten from the West. So systems like Starstreak from the UK, systems like Javelin and Stingers, those all help stop Russian forces in their tracks. But in order to push them out back to Russia, we need heavy weaponry. We need systems. We need tanks, systems, anti-air systems, just such as Patriot. We need jet fighters, and so on, so on, so on. So it looks like with this horrible price of human civilian suffering and death, we have been able to. This has made possible for such help to arrive, to give us some hope of pushing this back. Mark Milley, the Minister of Defense for the United States, he was speaking before the Congress a couple of days ago, and he says that his fear is that this war can go for several years, and that's why we need to make sure Ukraine wins. Of course, Mark Milley was the one who, at the beginning of the war, was giving Ukraine 3 to 5 days to fall. So I wouldn't rely on his word so much, but it does seem like what Putin wants to do is to freeze the conflict. So this plan of Putin comes from former, I think he was head of British intelligence. And he's saying that his plan is fourfold. Right now, he wants to have some kind of a win in eastern Ukraine, which is to take more of the land in eastern Ukraine, including Mariupol, because Mariupol provides him a land way into Crimea. And then what they will try to do is freeze the conflict, meaning that they will stop attacking, stop trying to push forward, and try to leave things where they are. And then in a few years, weather the storm of sanctions with the help of China, trading with China, trying to circumvent the sanctions by by trade and currency and exchanging currency with China. Then, as step number 3, try to find their way back into the world economics in a few years when people's attention spans usually are not that long, so they will try to start selling their natural resources back to Europe, and then when their economy is back on track, go into Ukraine again and take the whole thing. We have to understand that as long as Putin is in power, Ukraine is not safe. He will try to take Ukraine, and he will try to pay any price, employ any strategy in order for Ukraine to be his territory. And in previous videos, we talked about why it's so important to him to do that, why he, having all that territory, cannot leave Ukraine alone. That's an ideological thing, because without Ukraine, there is no Russian Empire, is the short answer. We're seeing that there is some growing tensions within Putin's government. His speaker, Peskov, had a spat with the Chechen military leader Ramzan Kadyrov. They had a public exchanging of insults and whatnot. We're seeing that the general who was occupying the eastern borders of Ukraine in 2014, he's now speaking against Putin. So I think what's happening is that they're seeing that Putin's regime is not going to stand for long, so they're making their stands now, so that when his regime falls, they will have some kind of either leading position or something close to the cabinet of Russia. So the more and more we hear news about Putin's reactions, but Putin is nowhere to be seen. He's not commenting or anything. It's all done by his mouthpiece, which is Peskov, and Peskov is not saying things contradictory to Russian president as well. So, for example, he said yesterday, I believe it was, that it was act of goodwill on behalf of Putin for the forces to retreat from Kiev, and his internal markets, his internal people, and this we know from public forums and whatnot on the internet, that they're saying, well, nearly 7,000 of our troops had been killed for what? For you to make a goodwill gesture and to step back from Kiev and northern regions. This is not good. So basically, Peskov is threw Putin under the bus, because he said it was his decision for the troops to retreat. So we're seeing that there is the tensions that are growing, and hopefully it will spill over into some kind of a coup or internal infighting, and that will help Ukraine, and Putin's plan to freeze the conflict in eastern Ukraine will not go through. So that's all the updates I have for you now. I'll keep watching what's happening inside of Russia, what's happening with the peace talks, and peace talks have stalled for now, by the way, because as you remember, when was this? Almost 2 weeks ago, Ukraine had given this project for the peace negotiation to be discussed with Putin, and since then he had not said anything. And the reason he has not said anything is because he needs to come to negotiations with some kind of a strong position, and he hopes that the strong position is Mariupol, is him taking some sort of a large or mid-sized city in Ukraine. Since he cannot do that, there is no reaction from the Russian side on the negotiations. And my hope is also that the heavy weaponry from Western countries will start to arrive sooner rather than later, so that we can start to push back Russian army and avoid such atrocities that we're seeing in Bucha. And by the way, from multiple sources, we're hearing that Bucha is not even the worst of it. There's another town in northern Ukraine called Borodyanka, and even though we don't have videos or pictures from there, the situation there by witness testimony is that it's much worse. So I'm bracing for what's going to happen there. Friends, if you still have energy for this, if you're still in fight and rooting for Ukraine, express your civil position and write to your MPs and senators about providing Ukraine with heavy weaponry, because that's what we need to avoid further atrocities and further advancement of Russians into our lands and killing, torturing, raping our people. And I thank you for your support. Bye.